And yeah, just trying to bring chat back. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Andrew Apanov. I am one of the experts and mentors at HEMI. Third year in a row, well, second as a part of HEMI Incubator. And we probably, well, we've met, some of us have met in person in Athens. But either way, let me do a very brief introduction of myself. I run a music marketing agency. That's the main thing that you probably want to know. I work with musicians and music startups, and I've got a team located in different parts of the world. I myself am in Poland, but it's a US-based company, and we operate in different markets. Not locally, not as much. It's mainly in the US. I've been doing different things in the music industry in the past 20 years. It's been in editing, at Ultimate Guitar, doing live events, DJing, and managing acts, and mainly doing things related to marketing, promotion for music companies and for musicians. So my experience is, well, working with music entrepreneurs like yourself. This is what I'll be focusing on. The experience of working with musicians is very relevant and useful for understanding, well, for understanding how to make a music project work, because as with any industry, this vertical of the entertainment industry, music is it's quite special, and there are many things that may not be obvious to people entering it, and there are many aspiring entrepreneurs trying to do something cool and creative and innovative in music, and a lot of them get disappointed understanding how the industry works. So knowing it from different perspectives has helped me help quite a few music startups. So today we're going to talk about music marketing and, well, marketing your project and promotion. But I appreciate everyone being here on this meeting in real time, and I want to make it as actionable as possible. I've distilled ideas to something specific. There will be some bits of theory and practical, tactical advice. When preparing this brief minimalistic presentation that I've got on the screen, I thought about the issues that not the issues, but the challenges that I saw a lot of you generalizing mentees of the program, of this year's program, have been experienced. So there are common themes and patterns in terms of knowledge related to positioning, to building your brand, and placing it in the music ecosystem. A lot of you are very experienced, but a lot of you may be very experienced in your territory, in your country, for example, in your specific industry. Well, there are multiple industries, not one industry in music. So maybe you are specializing in life in your country, and it may look different elsewhere. So being open to different ideas may be useful to you. Let me get straight to that. We have a chat. I think it may be a bit difficult to actually read it in real time, depending on how active it will be. Marilee, thank you in advance for helping me with that, because it's perfectly fine to ask me something and for Marilee to interrupt me during the next 40-50 minutes or an hour, and after that we'll have time for Q&A. So during the time I'm speaking, please do not turn on the camera and your microphone, but please do use the chat, okay? And then we'll figure it out how exactly to do it, because I want it to be as actionable as possible for you. So let me jump straight into that. If there are any technical issues, let me know as well. I came up with a completely different structure for this presentation today. I usually don't do it exactly like that, but there will be 4 parts that I'll cover. Again, just focus on the things that I believe a lot of you might be challenged by, or not necessarily struggling with, but yeah, it's possible. Because we'll talk about very specific acquisition methods towards the end, just to tease you, and yes, on a budget. So we will talk about how to actually get these customers and users. So first of all, I think that, again, jumping straight into that, okay? Something that, well, I've been introduced to a few projects at Athens Music Week, and it's a very common thing, and it's not just you, all of you pretty much, that it takes some practice to present yourself, and we will talk about that in a bit in more detail. But I want you to be honest and specific with yourself before you introduce your project to someone else. So being specific in terms of what you do exactly is very important. So being able to describe what you do in a brief, concise manner. Again, right now we are talking about the fundamentals, things that you need to figure out for yourself. So I'm not even talking about how you position this stuff that you do yet. You probably are reading what's on my screen. I won't be reading it out loud, but these are a couple examples I came up with that may show how you want to be very specific about what problem you are solving exactly. And if someone who is experienced in music, in the music industry, like your mentor or one of the experts you have one-on-one sessions with, or someone you met at Athens Music Week, if they point out to you that it may be a bit vague or it's not exactly, you know, straightforward, and if you're struggling to make it more specific, you don't see what the issue is, then listen to these people, because it may be that you don't have the full understanding of how that part of the industry works. I'm skipping to the next slide. Feel free to ask me any questions, but it's just an introduction to the idea that we'll talk about later on. Well, actually, didn't want to keep this slide, but apparently I did. It's just one of the general things that it's something that's on my mind as well, because sometimes it's not even always clear what kind of business you are trying to build, and if you have an exit plan and but it's, again, it's a bit too philosophical. Let's switch to something more specific. Okay, so these are some controversial things that I want to explain to you and kind of mention. And again, a lot of you are very experienced in music, but maybe you're just in one specific area of the music industry. Some of you may not be very experienced in music because you're coming from another entertainment industry or from business world. What I mean by not overestimating the value of music, I'm not meaning anything kind of negative. I'm not implying that music is not valuable and so on, but you need to be realistic about that, because I see it a lot that there are many passionate people. Actually, I wanted to say young people, but it doesn't matter, because I've seen entrepreneurs in their 60s trying to make something in music, but having very naive idea about music, because maybe they might be very much invested in music, but it may be also a situation of a bubble where they don't fully realize how music is consumed by people, what the role is of music these days in the world of streaming, in the world of just understanding the space of sync licensing, of short form content on TikTok and so on. So we can talk about that more, but just a warning, just be very critical and pragmatic when you work on the business plan for whatever you do, because you are in it because you love music. You clearly are here not for money. It's the main motivator, I hope. So I want you to be very kind of strict with yourself when you think about that, because it's important I'll have a couple examples actually later on. It's the same idea that the second idea that I have here is that you may have a bunch of friends in the industry or musicians, so people who really love music, and you may use these people as a segment to collect feedback on your idea. And it's the gap between these audience, initial early adopters that you may find directly, and the mass market can be so huge. I've seen way too many startups failing because of that. Everything seems exciting on the stage of getting initial users for an app. And by the way, I will be using a lot of the tech examples like apps, startups, and so on. But everything that I'm saying, I'm keeping services in mind, the different kind of organizations that you may be building or representing. So it's not just for tech, but tech is just a really good example. So just a side note. I had a friend from, a client from Israel who built a platform for growing a presence on an artist presence on SoundCloud some years ago, and it was really effective. It was using SoundCloud's API, and the developers were in touch with the SoundCloud guys on a daily basis, and it was working well, and the business started to flourish. And one day, SoundCloud closed the access to the APIs to third-party tools and stopped responding to emails. The whole business was just done within a day. I've seen this a few too many times. So I want to kind of warn you, because you may very well be using other technological solutions. Yes, I know that it's not relevant to all of you, but you may be surprised that even for you think that it's not relevant, you may want to tap into existing platform, into existing system. If you don't know what an API is, it's actually, I didn't think about explaining that, but you may want to use an existing infrastructure or an ecosystem of an app to use their data. I just had a call with Chatmetric, one of the top analytical platforms in the music industry, mainly focused on Spotify and collecting data from different streaming platforms, but mainly Spotify for like playlists, artists, and so on. They're launching a new product right now, and they have an API, and there are platforms that use these data that they're collecting on artists. And it's very important that you establish a clear relationship with companies you deal with. So you will need partners, but don't build your whole business on an existing platform, just as you don't want to build a whole system on Meta or on Instagram, for example, within Meta, because you think that this platform will be around forever. So be very careful with that. Understanding who you deal with, again, this is something that I've seen across like a lot in Athens and talking to different projects. You may get very excited about an idea and have an assumption that you will go to this type of people, for example, concerts, owners of music venues, and that you will arrange a deal with them. And then you will only, after trial and error, you may understand that in this particular genre, in this country, they're so conservative and inaccessible that it's discouraging, and it doesn't make any sense. It's not even worth trying that. This knowledge is usually accessible. Talk to people, talk to experts, and figure out how things look in publishing, in live, in recording business, in different types of music industry, depending on who you want to approach. Same for users, because or customers, because how music is consumed is very different depending on the country and so on. So anyway, let's get to part 2, and here we'll have a bit of theory as well, a lot more actionable things and examples coming up. I've been talking about the growth hacking mindset after attending some workshops on that, and just examining it in detail and trying to apply to the world of music, which has been semi-successful. A lot of it does apply to music. Some of it doesn't, because developing an application and just focusing on growth is a bit different from doing something creative in music, where there are emotions involved and the creative vision that may not be easily. It's not something that you want to be messing around with just for the sake of growth. So it's been a bit difficult. But I want to make it clear that I don't want you to think about separating promotion from what you do. Whatever you do, if you're an entrepreneur, a developer, a designer, or a concert promoter, whatever you do for your project can have a direct and will have a direct impact on the amount and quality of your customers or users, on growing. So if you adjust how you think about what you do, you can make promotion fun because it can be a part of the process. So, and here I want to emphasize that, because this hacking word is just, it's been weird, because for the tech people, it's not, you know, it's nothing weird, but for people outside of these like IT world, it's been a bit kind of it's not been sticking too well when I talk about this stuff with music people. So focus on growth. It's a mindset, not exactly a tool set, even for there are existing ways to go about that. Something that I absolutely have to mention, I go over these briefly on pretty much every conversation about growth, because this is one of the most useful tools for anyone, even if you are familiar with these, and there are multiple versions of this funnel, there are multiple like words and names used for that. It's always the same idea, but if you apply this concept to whatever you do, it will be so much easier to understand where you have issues exactly. So we are talking about a funnel. You can look into the error here. It's actually pretty much literally a funnel where you start at reaching a mass of people, capturing some of them. In the case of a mobile application, as the simplest example, you may have a YouTube influencer sharing a video about you, or you running targeted ads for your program, for your app, and this is the awareness stage. And some of the people who are interested in it may install the application. There is a user account that needs to be created once the application is launched. Not everyone will perform that action. Once the account is created, doesn't mean that the person will actually be using the app. Maybe they will try it once, but then they will leave. So you want to retain them, you want to keep them. And then there is, after quite some time, there is oftentimes it takes time to build this trust and relationship with your customer user to get to the monetization stage, to the revenue. And at some point, you may have super fans, users, customers who love what you do so much that they will be referring others to your app, even without incentive, just for the sake of it. Again, I will have very specific examples actually later on, is in the next slides. Yeah, let me actually get straight to examples. Yeah, so this is important. We can talk about that for hours, but I hope the general idea makes sense. So you start, and by the way, there is a way to flip the funnel as well. These days, it makes a lot of sense. For example, in the world of Web3, it makes a lot more sense to start with super fans and people who you connect with on a personal level before you expand. So, but this is the most typical way to grow any kind of business, and it's applicable to promoting musicians as well. So this is something that we do a lot at the agency, and thinking about the different stages. The benefit of understanding these different stages is that then you can think about the different tactics, the different strategies in the context of what you are doing. And like if you come up with a marketing promotional idea on how to get more users, you will be honest about what exactly you are trying to achieve with that. If it's an awareness, then you're optimizing for converting as many of people or these eyeballs of people who you could reach through whatever channel you are testing right now, to actually capture them, maybe capturing their email address, or capturing them as subscribers on a social media platform, capturing them as leads if you have a business prospect capture form connected to a CRM. So you may understand that you are successful with capturing the people, but none of them respond to your emails. So you have an issue with activation, but you may want to look back at awareness. Maybe you are capturing people easily, but these are not the right people. They are being attracted to you for the wrong reasons. So keeping these things in mind, and you may even write them down and write different promotional activities next to them, then it becomes intuitive. You don't have to be a marketer for that. It's really straightforward, intuitive. That's why I like it so much. So let me give you a few examples. I like giving an example of Philip Kaplan. I had a chance to be to hang with him at Slush Music some years ago. He's a founder of DistroKids, one of the leading indie distributors right now. He is a pure hacker. He started his, well, almost like career in music with a project called Vandalism. I'm not even trying to describe it because it was some kind of a community for music fans. And the way he grew it, actually, it will seem very banal, but it was extremely effective. He was experimenting with Facebook ads, and he found that he was getting a really good, cost per click in Brazil. I mean, anyone who's done ads knows that there are particular territories where it's very easy and affordable, to get clicks, customers, likes, or whatever. But he optimized the whole platform to focus on on Latin America, and he grew this platform to just I think just hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of platforms. He started another company which was it was in the .com boom, where a lot of the companies around the internet, Web 2. It wasn't Web 2. It was Web 1 to Web 2 era. A lot of investments, a lot of bubbles being burst, and a lot of companies being fucked. Hence the name of the company. He was just writing about this. It was like semi-humorous kind of blog about different failed startups. And he went to a popular platform like Reddit, but was it Hacker News or was something along the lines? I think it was Hacker News. And he created a fake account and posted on that platform like, hey, take a look at this asshole who just created this platform. And he kind of bashed his own platform on his own website in this community, and many people started checking it out and started defending the platform, and it went viral from there within a couple of days. Banal example, but it's just to give you an idea that there is always something that's not been done before, because now you really are not going to get away with just targeting Latin America or Southern Asia for your platform. Most probably it was over 10 years ago. Well, yeah, around 10 years ago, I guess. There are things that actually are applicable. So I really like giving the idea, the example of Gmail being invitation only in its early days. So yes, it was possible to get a free email with Gmail only through an invitation, and it worked so well. We use it all the time, and I recommend all of you to consider having an invitation only pre-release strategy. It just works. It's one of these psychological tricks that works really well. So have a form where people need to fill out, provide like details about themselves. A trick is to ask for many things, not just for their email address, but actually ask about them. We've used it with, we use it with musicians all the time. If I work with a startup that targets artists, we will have a form that asks a ton of questions. Artists love talking about themselves. And I'm not misusing that, because we are being very careful with the data, and we actually personalize whatever is happening. So we're trying to get the most out of it, but it's a lot more effective to ask a ton of questions when you present something to an artist than just ask for their name and email address. So it's not always intuitive, but it works really well. So there are different, hacks to get more people in, and we'll talk about specific channels like ads and so on towards the end, because it's important even for kind of banal. Briefly, activation. These are very classical growth hacking examples, by the way. I'm not even looking just in music examples, but it's important. If you are new to the concept, it's important that you know that about that. It's a good, useful concept. Airbnb, they did a few interesting things, like they hacked Craigslist to place their ads on Craigslist automatically. But one of the best activation tricks that they did was hiring a professional photographer. And instead of, that was in the early days when people were posting very crappy photos of their apartments, like they used to do at Craigslist, for example. And Airbnb paid for a photographer and went in like San Francisco and a few other cities and took professional photos of these apartments, and the bookings skyrocketed because of that, and then became a norm to have professional high quality photos on Airbnb. Just the fact of asking to follow someone when you sign up to a platform, or customizing it. There is this ghost blogging platform. They increase their activation rate by like 30–40% just by asking new users to change the header, just customize it somehow. So asking people to perform some action on the platform is really helpful. I know we're getting into too like app techie area here, but well, retention, Spotify's Discover Weekly is a great example of keeping people engaged and staying with the app, even though I know it's not necessarily for everyone. It is for me. I'm a big fan of the algorithmic playlist, and I wait for my release radar. But yeah, it's kind of based on the recent reports from Spotify, it's not as popular as I expected. There are ways to encourage people to, well, in case of Hotmail, it was one of the most popular growth hacks in the world, where they just included a signature that read like that in all their emails, and it linked to Hotmail. This is how it became the biggest free email platform in the world back in the 2000s, and Dropbox referral system, where you get 3 megabytes in exchange of getting someone to sign up for the platform. It's used, you see it everywhere in e-commerce, and it works really well in different areas as well, in terms of even B2B solutions. So it's possible to integrate referral system somehow. One other, I meant to make the capital here. So one concept that I want to mention to you, and this may make sense once you process that. If it's new to you, then it may sound weird, because it kind of is weird. The product market fit. It is very important, and I think that this is something that understanding this concept can help a lot of projects and pivot at the right moment as well. If you see that you are not reaching a good product market fit, you can change your strategy. But if you are stubborn with your initial vision and just keep doing something that doesn't work, then it won't help anyone. Oftentimes, it's not about changing your product; it's changing who you approach. So there is the product, what you build, and it can be service, it can be company, whatever you do, it's a product. Let's call it product here. And there is a market, and you want a product market fit. And yes, you may have a market for which your product isn't the right fit necessarily. You want to stay with that market, and you may want to change the product, but then maybe that the market is not right. And a really good way to think about that is, yeah, I have a quote for who it came from. If you would ask people who already are with you, your customers, even if you have a small pool of people who work with you, if at least 40% of them say that they would be disappointed if you say tomorrow that you are no longer in business, then you're probably in a good spot. So roughly 40% of people need to be really kind of into what you do. If most people, they may be using whatever you do, your service, your product, but it's like whatever, then there is something wrong going on. Keep this in mind. I wanted to mention the language market fit specifically about music. To me, it's crazy. It's like I see it all the time. Someone from a music industry veteran or someone who has experience in music or whatever creates a new startup, a new service, a new product, a new app, and they come from hip hop world, for example, and all the wording that they use is clearly for the urban rapping crowd. and it feels like they assume that it's for for everyone who is in music, and they see it all the time in different buckets: electronic music crowds, different subgenres of electronic music, country, Americana, rock, pop, in different countries, jazz. This world is really segmented, so be very careful with how you communicate. If you are targeting a very specific genre or a specific crowd, then of course you want that, but otherwise you may want to be careful about what kind of words you use. We use the word marketing a lot, and we still do, but it's a terrible word because no one in music uses the word marketing. It's just everyone. If you look up the requests on search, people are looking for ways to promote their music, not market their music. It's the word promote or push sometimes. So I've made this mistake quite a few times, but be very careful in your copy. Okay, so going niche is probably too big and too abstract of a topic to get into right now, but it is very important to start with a very specific and niche audience and then scale up. Again, there are exceptions, but generally it's a very good idea. Like if you're saying that you are doing whatever you do for everyone, we've got an issue. We've got a big trouble potentially. So you need to be very clear about who you're doing whatever you do for. So story. So we have two parts left, and one will be about, it won't be in detail about storytelling. I'll just share a couple specific ideas here. The fourth part will be about acquisition, when we will talk about different channels of acquiring your customers or users. So yeah, first of all, yeah, nothing. Okay, so if there is anything, you can feel free. I will be pausing to read the chat, but again, we're actually not too far from the end in any case. So if you have something, you can write it down to ask later. So this is the foundation of a positioning for any brand, and what you do. I'm pretty sure it applies to everyone. Like, raise your hand if it's not applicable to you, or if it is. Okay, no. Like, please tell me if you would say that this resonates with you. You've tried to do something on your own, and you didn't find a solution you are comfortable with, that you like, that satisfied you. And the project that you're working on right now, that you applied to HEMI with, it's the solution to that problem. Does it resonate with anyone? I mean, you don't have to reply, but feel free to, because this is very common, and this is good because it is the foundation of your story. I think that a lot of you, again, this is generalizing, don't take it personal, but I think that you may have some issues with communicating your story to others, especially people who don't know the subject way too well, and it's perfectly fine. Everyone goes through it. It's not a trivial thing. We're not taught this usually, and again, I've seen this because some of you introduced your projects to me, for example, and sometimes it's clear that you could work on that. The reason I'm bringing this up, and I'll give a couple examples here as well, because you are, if I remember right, you all need to submit your presentations, preliminary kind of presentations. Marley may correct me how it's phrased properly, but you need to record yourself pitching your project based on the knowledge that you achieved so far. So I hope that, if you haven't done this yet, maybe it will help some of you formulate what you do better. And I know that you already tried that because you submitted your proposals to HEMI, you got here. So well done on already being somewhat good at this. And I've read some of the pitches. I've read all of them, of course, all of the project descriptions, and some of them are really good. But when you are in a conversation with someone, when you have just a bit of time, there is this outdated term of an elevator pitch, where you have just a bit of time when you're in an elevator going up somewhere in a business building and you want to present your project to them. I don't like this term, but it's commonly used in marketing. So you want to work on how you present yourself in a clear and in a way that makes others excited. Don't geek out on the technical sides of things, and just make people excited and make them understand what exactly you're trying to achieve. This is kind of also dated because I really don't want you to sound like, like a tape machine when someone asks to present you. I've seen it in the tech world a lot when someone asks like, what do you do? And you can see how a person turns into the I'm a pitch machine mode, and they just, it sounds unnatural when you pronounce your speech that you or someone wrote for you, and it's done in this very standard typical manner. However, I think that it really is a good exercise to use this very classical structure of positioning statement. Then you can make it on your own, because if you do it for yourself, you may be more clear of what you do actually. I've seen this helping a lot of startups and companies, so I actually would recommend you rehearsal pitch. So this is something that you may use in your rehearsal pitch as well, potentially. So again, a lot of you probably at least looked into that or researched that because you've done this, at least for HEMI. So you're not completely new to that. But again, from what I've seen and heard so far, it's something that's maybe worth your time to work on. I haven't prepared anything like specific here, but let me okay, so I have a client based in I'm just thinking maybe we should use one of you here, but it will take too much time probably if we figure out. Even for, I would be curious, like, feel free. Okay, so while I'm giving you an example of one of my clients, and I've not prepared for that, I just wrote down one specific term, but I intentionally didn't prepare it. I wanted to do it like with you here in real time. Feel free to briefly drop. The fact that you have limited time to actually do that is good. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Feel free to type how exactly you present your project. The fact that you can do it briefly following this formula will be a good sign. So feel free to do that, and we can discuss what you wrote later on. So I've got a client based in Tokyo. It's a singing synthesis technology with the use of AI, and it's very innovative, and it's a very kind of realistic singing voice and a very intuitive interface. So it's something that, they're in a space that gets a lot of bad press because many people confuse singing synthesis with voice conversion. I'm still learning that phrase, singing voice conversion, even though it's a really big difference. So it's not about the deep faking, taking a sample of a voice, singing something, and then replacing your voice with something. It's a properly synthesized voice that sounds like human. It's ethically sourced and so on. So for professional, I'm making it up. I would probably redo this if I started again. For a professional music producer who is looking for vocals for their production, the Synthesizer V Studio, this is the name of the app, is VST, or it's a virtual synthesizer that allows to quickly generate realistically sounding vocals. Probably not the best to phrase that. Unlike other solutions on the market, and it may be a good idea to actually even name them, so people in the distributing world, they don't feel any shame bashing their competitors. It may be your thing, but generally, probably it's not what you want to do. But just so you can mention specific, solutions if you are entering a market with very well-known players, because if you know that a typical question people ask you is like, but how are you different from X, from another brand? And you want to prepare for that question in advance. Our product contains ethically sourced, licensed vocals, and is easy to use. Well, it's also pretty bad, but yeah, I'm improvising. Well, for professional musicians who target. So basically, I have a couple ideas on how to phrase that, but I don't think it's necessary to get there. You don't have to use all of these phrases. You can use them interchangeably. So for professional producers who are looking for session vocalists, for example, Synthv provides a cheaper and affordable solution, which, for the cost of 2 sessions with a hired singer, you can get 1 license and use the variety of voices for forever. And yeah, unlike all the other different solutions on the market, it doesn't require any technical skills. It's easy to use. You can just play a MIDI melody and type in the lyrics, and the synthesizer will sing for you. So while if any of you want to follow my assignment and actually write it down, feel free to do that. I'll read it in a bit. So the classical pitch structure it's relevant to what I just mentioned. I won't be repeating myself because it will be pretty much saying it's just a shorter version of that. You need to be honest, really honest, and look into what you do, and just please be sure that you realize that you are not 100% unique in what you do. You need to understand where you fit in the existing music system. It's great if there are no existing solutions like as is, but don't tell people, especially investors or industry people, that you've done something that's never been thought about before or something that unique. First of all, it's very difficult to understand what you do. We as humans naturally put things into buckets. We think in existing images that are in our head. So you're not, like, when you first describe your project, it's perfectly fine to use the words and terms that are familiar to a person you're introducing it to. So you don't want to. There was a trend, there was a joke at some point where there were many apps that had the same interfaces, like swipe left, swipe right, and it was Tinder for pet sitters, Tinder for whatever. So there are examples where it's overdone. You don't want to do that necessarily, but it is a good idea to describe yourself using existing solutions out there that may be from the music industry, but maybe from other industries, as long as it's commonly known what it is. So unless you are in such a niche market that you don't care if the mass audience understands what you do, you want to be descriptive and specific, even if it simplifies what you do. What I see a lot is that founders are so sensitive to that. I don't want to compare myself to this app because we're different. We don't do it like that. So, just be critical, okay? So you really think about the pragmatic type of person you will be talking to, okay? So, okay, so I'm done here. We have a few minutes for the presentation part. And here I want to mention a few things, which is in the context of PR, of public relations, getting press. And it may be relevant to you, maybe not, but typically for a tech app, it's very important to get press. And I know that you don't, not a lot of you actually here with apps, but it usually is still, good for social proof or for getting attention from the right people. If you are looking for investment, you absolutely have to be on the right types of blogs to be in front of the potential venture capital firms and so on. But yeah, so It's also relevant to social media content. Just keep in mind the different events and different angles that you can use to say something interesting about what you do. And it really is great if you can react to what's happening outside of your world. This is exciting, I think, and I have a couple examples that I will show you right now that make it so interesting, because there are, right now, we are living in a crazy world. Things changing all the time. The music industry is changing. Well, not the music industry is changing, but there are many innovations happening, and everything is being disrupted. And there are many interesting use cases and so on. There are many things that you could tap into. You can hijack potentially. And when I say hijack, it's not, it kind of implies something negative, but I don't mean it like that. You can tap into something that's happening out there and use events, trends, news, establish names for PR. And by PR, I really mean your social media content as well, because you may not have a publicist. I don't even mean that you need to have a publicist. You can do an outreach directly to media publications and to influencers to cover you, to write about you. It's, again, it's more about the mindset, about thinking how you can create an interesting story around what you do and put it in the context of what's happening right now. I think it's one of the, well, simplest, but most universal hacks in that area. I have a couple examples here. They're from some time ago, but I saved them within just, just going through press releases that are being sent to me by Rock Paper Scissors. It's one of the top, like, well, kind of one of few PR companies that specialize. They're based in California. They specialize in music tech. So they work with music tech companies and provide them with publicity services, placing them in different blogs and so on. They're publicists, and they know quite a few of them. They're great. They do a good job doing just what I described, positioning the apps or the apps. The platform is not just the apps, of course. Sometimes it's services, sometimes it's B2B, sometimes it's B2C, and so on. So yeah, this example, it was way before the current. It was like 3 years ago, or well, maybe actually like 4 years ago. So it was before the current AI boom. So it's just using the title, and it's not example of hijacking necessarily. We'll have the hijack examples later on, but this is the type of, well, I mean, actually, yeah, anyway, no, it is sorry, it is a hijack. Yeah. So Endel, Berlin-based company, generative music, and this is the story. Not about Endel. I forgot about that. So this is the story about Amadeus Code, which is the AI music company that's not related to Endel or Warner Music at all. But the headline used to attract my attention as a journalist in this context is to mention that Warner Music signed an algorithm, and then it mentions this story that's been going on around Endel at the time, and then bringing attention back to how this particular platform that's being promoted through this email is relevant to that. You see, here we have an example of that music non-commercial initiative being presented as with a case study of Drake not owning Drake.com. So, and describing this confusion. So it starts with a story that has nothing to do with the product. Can you, like, if you start thinking about that, I believe that a lot of you can come up with stuff like that, specific stuff. It's not just, there are well-known artists that are selling stadiums who don't own their own .com website. It's like, it's not specific. Here we have a very specific artist. So when you have examples like that, come up with exact examples. This is how you communicate stories, through anecdotes, through specific stories about someone. Then it's easier to process that information. That's the reason that a lot of the information that they provided so far was not probably too easy to follow, because it wasn't backed up by as many examples as I normally prefer to, but here we're doing that at least. So being a bit self-critical here as well. Tags, it's kind of like content ID, but independent from YouTube. Great headline based on data. So this is data that's like, this is information that's provided by YouTube. So sometimes Spotify, YouTube will come up with data that is really big, and everyone talks about that. A good example is Spotify. Right now, I believe the most current official number of songs being uploaded to Spotify on a daily basis was 140,000. Maybe someone will correct me. I'm maybe, but yeah, it's way above 100,000, because I remember the days. It was like 2 years ago when it was 80,000. Now it's 140, or maybe, yeah. Anyway, so this is something that a lot of music startups use. You know, if you want to show that the music market is so oversaturated, if you have a solution for music streaming, which is really difficult market to enter, but just as an example, then you may want to start with that. Or if you are presenting a promotional service for musicians, you may use that. Like, this is the type of competition you have. You are competing with, you know, over 100,000 tracks being uploaded on on streaming platforms on a daily basis. So you can use this data. For that, you simply need to read the blogs and the news. So we can, if you want, I can give you some recommendations of where to do that. But just knowing what's going on in the industry can help you a lot. I like this example. I won't be playing you this video, even though it was pretty funny. Mike, I interviewed him for my podcast a couple of times from CD Baby. So they, Sony announced that they would start providing sales data and allow to withdraw money from earnings for their artists every month. And CD Baby has been doing that since 1998, and they made this humorous, you know, celebration cake, like, Sony, congratulations, welcome to 1998. You know, again, distribution companies do that a lot, all the time. When you're on the checkout page of DistroKid, you will get testimonials from TuneCore and CD Baby founders pricing DistroKid, and yeah, you may or may not want to do that. Okay, so I think we're right on time. We have just one section left, and we may expand on that in the Q&A section, because this is what I expect a lot of you will have the most questions. Because it's both exciting and boring, depends on how you look at that. The biggest, like, it's not about specific tactics. Again, it's the mindset. I really want you to analyze the difference and understand the different acquisition channels. And acquisition is what most of you need. Remember when I talked about the funnel, the acquisition is just the beginning. And you need everything. You want to make sure that if you have a landing page, that, you know, it's optimized for leads, for people actually filling out the form that you have. So it's not enough to drive traffic to that page. Is it 5% of people who fill out the form on your website, or is it 50%? It's a big difference. So you want to take care of everything, but the number one thing that new companies are looking for is new customers. You may be an exception. Maybe you already are in a B2B space where you have plenty, you just want to scale up. So that may be a bit of a different challenge, but usually it's the acquisition that's, you know, at this stage in the incubator, accelerator stage, you are looking into ways to acquire more customers, users, businesses to work with, and so on. And I see that a lot of confusion when I do one-on-one consultations. People are confused about what to use exactly. And it's not that difficult, really. At the core, it is difficult, but at the core level, you can get an idea of what may or may not work for you. So here are a few examples. Well, I mentioned is a channel which is not exactly that, but in an invitation-only approach can be considered as a trick and a tactic that can be really effective. Let me get back to it in a second, because it's kind of a bit of a different type of item on this list. So by cold outreach, I mean a cold outreach to potential customers, and mass emailing is actually related to that, but it can be cold outreach. You may be researching. I've had these projects I've worked with recently where it's a solution for musicians. It's an accompaniment kind of thing. So they were targeting music schools, which didn't exactly work out, and they pivoted eventually. But they were cold calling music schools, literally just in the country, just calling everyone. It's something that you like. It's one of the options. My question here, and I'll go through the list now, is when you think about these items, because you may get more excited about one item because you're more familiar with that approach, for example, or you think that it's the right one, but you really need to ask the hard questions, like if it makes sense for you or not, because like you wouldn't be doing a cold calling if you've got a solution for music streaming. It's a bad example, but if you're doing something for music consumers, because it will be effective, but it's not scalable. If your project will survive and live if you have thousands of users, then it's not exactly the way to approach that. Doing something non-scalable at the beginning is fine. It's perfectly fine to send out emails to press, for example, yourself manually. So self-PR is, self-PR, it's kind of something that I just made up for this presentation. I never use this term. But doing the PR yourself is more effective than hiring the publicity, which costs a lot, because some blogs will actually, like if you are cold emailing, if you don't have an established relationship, which is the benefit of hiring a publicist, of course, then you are more likely to receive an answer if it's the founder of the platform actually sending a customized email. There is a lot of confusion about targeted ads. By that I mean Instagram ads, and Facebook ads, story reels, feeds, something that we do a lot for musicians, because it's applicable to we are hitting people who may have similar interests to the artist, similar interest by genres, they like similar artists and so on, but there is no way they will be actively looking for the artist. It's not like it's a solution, like someone is looking for a new standing desk, like the one I'm standing on in front of me. Like I will Google it. So display ads in Google is the way to advertise this kind of product. And it's a very interesting exercise. What type of search requests? Answer this in any case for yourself. Even if you are not going to do Google ads, which key phrases you would optimize your ads for, run your ads for if you are doing Google ads? And discard the first idea, the first 2 or 3 ideas that come to your mind, and really think about that. What are the neighboring interests and things that people may be looking? What are the relevant items, products that people may be looking for online, which you could tap into, again, hijack somehow. And if your product service shows up next to these key phrases, search terms, people may actually be interested in what you do. So in case of a desk, it would be home lighting or interior design or something like that. It's still an example, but I can come up with something music related, of course. There are cases where you have a very strong visual content where the video ads on YouTube would make a lot of sense. There are cases where a referral system, the incentive to get others involved even before you have a massive audience of super fans, is so high that you may look in, or may want to look into a referral system. So I still don't know how to approach that, because that's about it here, because it's so, we can get really deep into any of these directions, talking about ads and so on. And by the way, ads, I do consider it a solution on the budget, because you don't have to have a massive budget to run, even to set up basic ads yourself, even for it's good to have a professional for that. But a lot of the growth hacking approaches, it's for the founders who don't have much of a budget. And this is about things that you can be doing on your own. creating a smart funnel, a capture system, and it can involve giving something of value away in exchange of contact information, and then coming up a way to spread that information through communities, for example, and so on. There is a lot of stuff that can be done that requires time and not money, but it also costs money, of course. So at this stage, I would like to accept questions. We will get back to any of these things as needed, because I want it to be a bit more actionable at this stage. And I believe, yeah, I have 2 more slides. Okay, before, feel free to type anything in. I'll get to the chat in a bit. Well, we've got 1 question. Very good. Something that I see being overseen, something that I included this because I've seen some not confusion, but I think it's worth bringing up this idea, because sometimes you may have a service, a product that doesn't exactly require uniting all of your clients under one roof as a community. And there are examples where community will be what will drive your business. But sometimes you may want to build a community when you don't really need a community. There is no need for that, and it's very difficult to do that. And sometimes you are trying to do everything in a centralized way through you, instead of decentralizing it into communities. Just one thing to think about. Okay, so I'm just dropping these ideas that I hope are somewhat provocative and will make you think about positioning your brand and promoting it. Some of the key takeaways, it's just a couple here. Looking into solving an existing problem in a very specific niche and being clear about that. I want to emphasize again, being very cold-blooded about music, because again, too many people getting too excited about doing something in music and then getting way too disappointed when they realize what they're dealing with. So be very brutally honest and cynical about that. Music is a bitch. So the music industry, I mean, is a bitch. Music is great. So yeah, be very careful about that. Again, 99% of the music startups I've witnessed in my career, I've seen a lot, I've worked with a lot. Most of them shut down, like 90%, I would say. So it's very, very brutal area, and you can succeed. I believe that you will, but remember, music is tough. Music business is tough. Okay. Okay. So that last part sounds a bit brutal as well, but I meant the API case that I explained. I don't mistrust others, but again, be very also you may find a partner, but it may be a great person, but not the right type of partner that's required for your business. I see that a lot as well. Okay, let me pull the questions now. Wow, these are some big messages here. So feel free to, Marley, what do you think? I guess we can stick to the chat, because I'm perfectly comfortable with reading questions and answering them. But I guess if anyone wants to raise a hand and ask me something via audio and video is fine as well.
Yes, maybe let's start with the questions on chat, and if anyone wants to ask in person, feel free to raise a hand. Yes.
Marley, while I have you here, what about the 3 minutes pre-pitch video, rehearsal pitch? What should be the focus of that video, and what should we emphasize the most? Well, because I can make, I have assumptions about what it should be, but maybe there is a formal requirements, because
I can just add one thing, that the aim for the pre-pitch is the focus will be on rather rehearsing your presentation skills, because most of the projects are, I think, still like on progress. So don't worry too much about that. So I think the main goal is just to rehearse how to present yourself clearly, because I think there can be like situation when there's a really good project, but the presentation can be poor. So you will lose your kind of audience or points when you're, I don't know, for example, for a HEMI, when you'll be charged in September for the final grant. So it's very important to really rehearse the pitch.
Yeah, that's a great. Thank you for explaining that. That's how I saw it, but wanted to make sure that I got it right as well. It's like just something to add here. So yeah, to answer Sava's question, it's about just practicing it. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's not like you will be judged first. I thought that it would be, you know, something that's it would be like the first round of, you know, jury kind of reviewing and so on. It's something that I mentioned to Daniel on our call. But no, I understand that it's not the case. It's just to practice. So don't worry about that, and be open to the feedback that experts will provide to you. Okay. As a general recommendation here, make others excited about what you do. If you are not excited about your project, others will not be, but at the same time, back it up with real substantial knowledge and fake it a little bit. Okay, so it's perfectly fine. Everyone is perfectionist here. Like whoever I talk to, it's crazy. Like we all have difficult childhoods, but we need to like be confident in what we present. And here you may not have the final product yet, especially if you're on stream 1, but describe it as if it's already out there. Even if you talk in future tense, think about it as something that's already done and describe it clearly. So it's a general and vague kind of tip, but I think it's very important too. I hope it makes sense. Yeah, so let me know if it's too unclear. I'm reading Justina's comment right now. There should be music playing in the background, I guess, while I'm doing that. Okay, so this is the elevator pitch that you expressed. So for adults who are stressed, I'm reading out the improvised elevator pitch from Justina. For adults who are stressed out, the singing, don't mind the grammar typos or whatnot. The singing lessons is relaxed that gives quick relief. Okay, so for adults who are stressed out, the singing lessons is a way to get a quick relief. Unlike sport or like sports, I guess our product doesn't involve competition and doesn't wear you out. For adults who need to relax, Mom Gloss platform provides relaxing, high-quality singing lessons, unlike platforms where you can find teachers of various specializations, small experience. Mom Gloss provides only certified singing teachers who, apart from music education, have coaching or therapeutic education and proven experience. This therapeutic education is really, really key. The health music industry right now is booming. You, Justina, almost certainly. It's weird that we haven't chatted even before, but this is huge. This area of music being applied to therapeutic or healing process is just massive. So it's very, very good thing to focus on. So I won't be commenting on it much more, but it's a good. It may be packed with too much details. Yeah, but it's good. I'm gonna comment on it later on. If we have time, let me go through the second question from Christine. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, the examples of Uber, Bolt, and so on, it's really good to look into these huge corporations who do a lot of innovating in the fields, testing, and everyone is doing that. Instagram app is doing that. We all have different versions of the Instagram app because they always introduce different features in different markets for different users based on their user behavior. If you are, well, yeah, I mean, there are many examples in music as well with Spotify testing features in specific markets and so on. But these are big corporations. It's not applicable to us mortals. So we make a big emphasis on testing early, and as much as possible, you have assumptions about your project. I may have assumption about your project after we speak directly with any of you. And you want to listen to experts, people who are experienced in the field that you are in. But these are all just assumptions. It's not like you immediately have this, you know that you have this product market fit that I talked about guaranteed. It's not like that. You need to test everything. You need to test yourself and your assumptions all the time. We start with our experience. It helps a lot. It saves some months, years sometimes to, not make the mistakes that others have done before us, but we do this through targeted advertising usually. So you can come up with an interesting creative, a video creative, for example, with different messaging. On Facebook, you will have a demo video, a short brief demo video of your product, of your service with a description. Compare different descriptions, presenting it differently for the same target audience. And you will see immediately after a few days with a very limited budget, which creative, which text copy gets more clicks. So even if you may not be selling anything, this is done before often you have a product to offer. Just people test book headlines this way. You can test ideas, business ideas, just understand how people react to what you do. You can do it right away with ads, and then have a simple form where you collect contact information. So you can actually get leads as well. So it's not just money wasted. You can collect email addresses of people who are interested in what you do. I make a huge emphasis on testing, and for that geographical. That's a tricky question. It really depends on what you do, because sometimes you will be stuck with your market because you've been your whole business is based on one-on-one connections that you have through your network, and you can communicate in one language, and you just call up the people in your country, everyone, and then you're stuck because you don't know how to bring it to other countries. You need different methods you don't have the network, you don't share the same language. You cannot easily scale up your acquisition channel, and you need something else. So you need to be careful with focusing on one area, but for some projects, it's absolutely necessary. There is no walk around here. And if you're just, you know which market you are in, you're lucky in that regard, then just focus on finding different segments of that market. Like in one country, what kind of people may be relevant to you. And I can give you specific examples with any of you if you ask specific questions, because it depends on I can make it more specific depending on what you need. We have around 10-15 minutes, I guess, so feel free to ask any questions. I assume any of you can, I guess anyone can just also, if anyone is not shy, you can, just ask it via video or audio only as well, up to you, or use the chat. I really appreciate everyone being here. So we've got Davor, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Yes, hello.
Hey.
I would like to thank you for this wonderful presentation. It was very inspiring, as always. You are very, very, very open-minded and well-educated. So it's very inspiring to hear your view of the industry. So do you have any recommendations for the website? Like you mentioned, the Pepper, Scissors, and Rocks platform. I think that might help me with my project. I
remember about your project, by the way, really well. So you don't need to introduce.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for being on my workshop in Athens as well. This is a good question. You look into the platforms that are free or affordable. This platform it's not a platform, it's a service, it's a PR company, and they will charge probably, well, I guess several thousand $US per month, and as a retainer for several months. But I don't know their pricing, but PR, you will not find a publicist in the US for less than $1,500 per month. and the good one will cost much more than that. And it's not worth it. You don't need to spend this money. If you have the funding, if you have a first round of like maybe like angel investors. I'm not, by the way, I've bootstrapped my own company, and I usually work with, I've worked with companies who have investment, but it's not my field really. I usually work with clients who are investing their own money, or private investors, or just bootstrapping it, and they love that. It has this guerrilla marketing kind of vibe to it, because you have to hustle with the limited resources that you have. But if you have money, then it may be worth it, because again, they help get you more funding, because you appear in all these important blogs in the US. I don't think you are there with your project, for example. So you want to look into communities rather. You want to use different communities that are out there to test and challenge your project by running it against different groups of people. So there are Facebook groups, there are Discord groups in Serbia. Maybe there are not so many, but look into specific communities and websites and media publications who you can reach out to yourself. So Hypebot, there is a blog, that an industry blog that's been around. Well, I started my blog Data Music in 2009, but Hypebot has been around since 2004, something like that. I know Bruce, the founder. He republishes my stuff like without asking this stage. Like he just, whatever we publish on the Data Music blog, he will repost. It's one of the kind of, it's music blogosphere is a niche, but I'm not bragging or anything. It's just really niche. I'm just saying that, there are people like that who, a person who runs a very important music industry blog, he's very accessible. You can reach out to Bruce, potentially like any of you, and suggest a guest post. It's not, I don't guarantee if he will approve it or not, and it needs to be really good. So, but think about that. I didn't mention that as a tactic, but you can write a guest post about your market, about the expertise that you have. Don't think about the press release. No one wants that stuff. People want stories. If you write, it's a story, informational material, or it's an educational material. If you're in the area of music streaming, then you want to, well, it's a very crowded space and many people write about that. But if you have an interesting take on that, how music in the music industry market is, music streaming market is broken in the Balkan territories, for example, like, or whatever. You can come up with an interesting aspect and just, describe it and create a properly written article and present it to a blog. And there you will have a bio, you will have an organic mention of what you do. Pre-PR, it just requires, well, maybe you will have to hire a writer. So it's a long-winded answer to Eva's question, but it's really so unique. I cannot give you specific platforms to recommend necessarily, because it just it will depend on the stage you're in as well.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned the key thing, that's the story. Actually, no one wants to write about some PR marketing text rather than people tell stories. That's the key. Thank you for that.
And my examples early on were examples of that. These are all pitches sent to me from publicists, but they already think about what the journalist needs, the media needs, how to write a story that will get clicks, how to write a story that will get people to stay on the article. So they don't let you like come up like, here is a press release and think how to make an interesting story out of that, but they already present it for you, like do the job. So you can completely, like, all of you can think about it creatively and come up with this creative. Again, I think this is a really powerful hack that's underrated. Anyone? And thank you again for the question. I really appreciate it. You not forcing anyone to stay here for longer. If any of you have questions, please let us know. And once again, I think I already mentioned that today, that I really appreciate you being here in real time. It's massive. So the kind of, time investment to dedicate an hour and a half of your day on being this kind of niche webinar, even if it's a part of the program you are, accepted in and so on. We're really busy, all of us. So you being here, it's a big move. I hope it was useful. Even if it's like 10-15% of what I mentioned is useful, it's already great. You don't have to remember all of it. As usual, yeah, feel free to reach. I just realized that I can pitch myself as well. If you want to have a one-on-one consultation with me, reach out to your expert. I'm just kidding. So it's, yeah, I just made it up. But you feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. I don't mind, like just, if you have a very specific short question, I can just, answer it by email or whatnot. Yep, okay, so I think we're good, Marley.
Yes, thank you so much, Andrew, for this very practical workshop. And yes, good luck
Thank you.
to everyone with preparing the pitches. And yes, don't worry too much about the project progress, but just to rehearse the pitching itself. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to watching the pitches that I'll get access to as well. Good luck, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Marley, thank you for being my host. And have a great evening, everyone.
Yes, have a nice summer. Bye.
Really sunny outside. Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andrew. Bye.
Bye.